Welcome to my channel. Now, if you know me, you know it's rare that I'm ever in full kit, but this video is about a review of this right here. This is a British 95 pattern PLCE, or personal load carrying equipment. Now, I mentioned this setup in a previous video, setting up a patrol rig and why you need one for combat. In that video, I talked about how when I was a soldier in the 90s, when we had Alice gear, I was always envious of British soldiers and their PLCEs. So I decided after making that video, hey, why don't I get one of these, try one out and see if it's all that it's cracked up to be. And long story short, this thing is actually pretty nice. It's the most overbuilt webbing I've ever tried on, and I'll get into exactly why that is so here in a second. But yes, British PLCE, pretty good piece of kit, so let's get into it right now. Your basic PLCE has two double ammo pouches, two accessory pouches, a water bottle pouch, yoke, and belt. Now let's flip it around on the inside, and this is what I mean by very overbuilt system. All the pouches except for the water bottle pouch have three connections onto the main belt itself. First, of course, is a nylon loop that feeds through the belt, and then it has a pull tab Velcro closure, and then the third method is that little tab that actually inserts into the belt itself. So these pouches, once you mount them onto the main belt, they're not going anywhere. Now they call this part a yoke. It's not suspenders, and it has 4 attachment points just in the back, 2 that go onto the belt, and then 2 that go onto an accessory pouch, or you can put it on an ammo pouch, and these are metal buckles that it attaches to. So again, very robust system in itself. Very impressive. These pouches aren't going anywhere. Right here, these slots, that's for a rubber bungee or a strap to go through to cinch these pouches down. Let me flip it around here in a second, and you're going to see I have it rigged up a British style, or what I've seen Brits have, which is there's slots underneath the tabs to run a bungee. And again, that's to keep all the pouches snug and not moving around when you're running and gunning and getting on it. So I'm impressed by this. Very overbuilt and really super tough. So this is a basic setup for your average British infantryman. In a lot of pictures, some of them you see have a lot more pouches, but this is probably the average amount. Now let's get into the clips, how you actually employ these pouches. They're called Spanish style clips. Let's flip it around one more time and I'll talk about it. I'm going to demonstrate 3 different ways to use these Spanish tabs. They're actually called tabs and not a clip. The first method for rapid employment is just to stick the small tab in, and the long tab is a pull handle. Use this for your ammo mag pouches. You need quick access. The second way to secure it is to put the long tab in and pull through the short tab, and this actually locks it all down. Very secure method, but it's hard to do when you're wearing the kit, trying to do it with both hands. But it is very secure. And the third method, which I think is one of the most secure, and you can do it easily with really one hand, is to take the long tab and just run it in reverse, and the pouch is locked down. It's not going anywhere. So yes, 3 methods of employment with these tabs. Now, I'm not an expert on British tactical gear, but this style of webbing was adopted around 1990. The first version was an OD green version, which the Brits took into the first Gulf War. And then in 95, they came out with their DPM camouflage pattern, hence it's called the 95 pattern PLCE. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the British DPM camouflage. I think the darks are too darks and the lights are too light. I was never a fan. And if this was in brand new condition, I would not be a fan of it at all. But when you buy one used and one that's super faded like this, I think it complements multicam really well and blends in pretty well. So when it comes to buying one, and I'll talk about how much I paid for this later on and where to look, I think the older the better, because again, I think DPM, once it gets super old and super faded, does fade in pretty well and aligned with multicam and modern camouflage patterns pretty good. Now with 2 double rifle mag pouches, this holds an aggressive 12 magazines. And that's pretty hefty even for pre-body armor times when body armor was the norm. But speaking with a former British soldier online, he didn't rock 12 mags. They never saw that many issued. They were basically in line with the US. They were issued about 7 magazines as a full basic load. So we said they utilized 2 pouches for magazines, and then the other 2 ammo pouches were for accessory items like maps, notebooks, pens, survival kit items, things like that. And if you notice, there's no place on this rig for an IFAK or hand grenades. Now, of course, IFAKs weren't a thing even in the American Army till about early 2004. Up until then, we all just had field dressings. Going into the 2003 invasion of Iraq and Special Forces, we had a special field dressing. But again, I didn't see a real IFAK until 2004. British soldiers, they had pockets in their battle smocks, their jackets, to hold field dressings. And if you look at a lot of photos, they basically tape field dressings to different spots all over their yoke. So field dressings it was. And as far as grenades, since there's no place to hold grenades on here, and their basic load was 7 mags, so they only utilized 2 ammo pouches for mags. I'm just speculating, but I'm sure they probably just used their extra empty magazine pouches to hold their frags and smokes. Hopefully some British soldiers, they'll put down in the comments how they actually rolled with a full basic load in those early years in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, as far as practicality of a combat load, let's talk about reloads. You're not going to get super fast reloads with flap pouches. But again, even in the American Army, and this is a 95 pattern rig, all throughout the 90s, everything had flaps when it came to magazine pouches. Even in the American Army, I did not see my first open top magazine pouch with a little bungee cord to retain the mag till probably late 2003, early 2004. I will say the PLCE with the Spanish tabs is a lot faster than your old Alice clips. I've got an old Alice ammo mag pouch right here, and these plastic clips are not your friend when it comes to a fast reload. I'm going to show lots of clips of me demonstrating a reload with this rig, and the more I practice, the faster I get. So it's actually not too bad. That one was latched. I've got one right here. So they actually, depending on how you rig your Spanish tabs, can make for a halfway decent reload. So overall, what do I think about this 95 pattern PLCE? One, it's super comfortable, and yes, it's not MOLLE and it is dated, but I think as far as a combat rig, this can hold a ton of gear. And I would not use this as a primary fighting rig and go into combat with just this right here alone. But if you look at what's going on in Ukraine over the past going on 3 years now, they're going through a lot of ammo and a lot of supplies in their fighting. They're doing full-blown warfare, and they're wearing fully rigged plate carriers with fully rigged war belts or fully rigged load-carrying combat systems underneath their plate carriers because they need to carry a ton of ammo. If you watch some of the clips of them just trying to take a trench, the average soldier is going through 2 or 3 mags just to clear one bunker. So you can just imagine how much ammo and grenades you're going to go through if you have to clear an entire trench line and then hold that trench line from counterattacks. Your basic load of 7 mags that we go by here in the US worked fine when we're doing insurgency fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, but I guarantee that's not going to last long in a full-blown firefight. So I can definitely see this being utilized to plus up an already combat rig. Now, as a civilian, I'm not going into combat anytime soon anymore, but I was interested in this not only just to try it out to make a video review, but as far as a civilian, how is this practical? Well, it would make a great survival rig as opposed to carrying some sort of go bag. The problem with having a backpack or a go bag is to get to the items, you have to wear it on your back, not very accessible. Well, instead of, say, a go bag or a backpack, how about wearing one of these and having it rigged up with all the survival items you would need and such? some sort of shift scenario. And of course you can throw ammo in here too. This rig carries a ton of gear, so I see it being very practical for that. And when I did the setting up a patrol rig for combat video, a lot of guys who are hunters, I'm not a hunter, I got a lot of feedback from hunters and saying they don't wear backpacks when they go out and hunt. They wear a similar style rig hunting so they don't have to lug around that backpack and then keep a bunch of items they need on those long overland hunts. I'm not a hunter, but it makes sense to me. So for me, this is going to be like a grab and go survival rig. I'm going to load this up with food and water and things like that. Let me flip it around one more time and just show the capacity of all these different pouches. So just as an example, first pouch, I've got 3 magazines. The second pouch, I've got this jammed with IFAC items. I can get everything in there but a tourniquet, my trusty Glock knife. Now here I got a Nalgene water bottle, and you can just see the amount of room left over in this accessory pouch. Tons of room. Now in the water bottle pouch itself, and this will fit 1-quart canteens, I've got a little Esbit stove, and British soldiers for the longest time were issued these as a method to heat their meals. I don't know if they still get them. And I've got a USGI 1-quart canteen cup that I'll use that as my cooker. And then another water bottle pouch with a canteen cup or Nalgene cup in there. Again, tons of room in this pouch. You can just jam these with tons of survival items or food. You can break down some MREs. And then 2 full magazine pouches for 6 mags. I'm a lefty, so reload off my right. So yes, tons of carrying capacity in this rig right here. Now, where to get one of these? They're still all over the internet. I got this one off of eBay. I believe it was for $85 to include shipping. So you can find these online for well under $100. You got to factor in shipping because they're coming from Europe. And as far as what you should be looking for, I think the more used, the better. These are super durable. But at a minimum, if you're going to buy a complete PLCE, look for one that has the 2 double rifle mag pouches, 2 accessory pouches, and 1 water bottle pouch. That looks like the standard minimum setup. And if you're going to spend $85 to just under $100 for one, I'd want that as a minimum. And individual pouches, funny enough, they really cost more. So if you're going to get a PLCE, look for a complete rig. If you try and build one out of individual pouches, buying the pouches separately, that some of them cost $30, $40 with shipping. It would cost more to put together one of these than just buying one outright. So again, plenty of places online to find these. I would not spend over $100 for a used one. Again, I got this for $85 and I'm pretty satisfied with it. So there it is, British PLCE, one of the most overbuilt webbing systems I've ever put on, and I'm kind of digging it. I think it's a good piece of kit. If you're into history, good military collectible, and still very practical. So as always, hopefully you found this video informative and entertaining. I'm Jeff Gerwich. Thanks for watching.